The whole point of this film was to see if it's possible to research something practically, which topic is usually researched theoretically only.
For the first read, it was like we didn't know what to expect from it, so it wasn't like the normal film that you get sent. But when we read through it again, it really clicked and very fascinating.
Plato proposed that there exist two worlds. One is the world of appearances, which is the world of reality that we live in, and the other is called the world of forms, and that everything that exists in the world of forms has a copy in the world of appearances or reality. Okay, so you see one and then you see another and you see another, and that will help propel you around, and go the other way as well. Yeah? There was a lot of crossover between the sciences at the time. They hadn't really defined and broken apart. You know, philosophy was a kind of science, so they were concerned with how the world worked. And so there was those themes of understanding the elements of what is water, what is fire, what is the earth, how can things have come to be. And Plato actually developed a whole theory about how the world came into being. His work has spanned a range of subjects, from how to live a just life or how to run a government to a theory of Atlantis. Roll camera. According to Plato, we have something perfect in us, and it's some kind of soul stuff, he called it. And this stuff recognises other soul stuff and other eternal things. So there's something within us that can see beauty or can recognise things in their purest form.
Brings it into modern day life without all the really technical jargon from when you actually read this stuff straight off to now. So I think it definitely helps when trying to understand it.
Inside of you is something invisible. This invisible thing is me. If you are invisible, why can I see you? The part of me that is inside of you recognises me. This is why you can see me.
Narrative is powerful for the reason that people like stories, and it's seductive narrative when you use elements, and they can draw audiences in, and perhaps you can allow people to be part of something that maybe if it was represented in a documentary they may not so much connect with. But actually creating kind of narrative, I think, helps to bridge the content with the audience.
I became really interested in researching a lot before I start doing something.
Learning from the whole experience and seeing what you did. I was much more into research when I wrote my drama script, to look into the world of veterinary, because the film is about a bit of veterinary. So I went on to vets and went into surgeries and talked to vets and researched the internet.
The big excitement for me, as I said, was film itself, because you need to be disciplined.
Yeah, discipline.
And the only way to learn, you learn whilst you do.
It's a Technoscope camera, so it's had a conversion to only pull down 2 perforations of the film. That gives you half-price film effectively and half-price processing, and it makes the cost of filming similar to 16mm, and at the same time it gives you a widescreen CinemaScope style frame. It's a noisy camera, so there's no chance of making it quiet. So that obviously means you can't shoot sound at the same time. And we are, but we're only using it as a wild track.
No matter what you do with video, and no matter what film effects you put on it, it'll never be the same. There'll never be that depth, because the video image is sort of like a surface, whereas the film is a chemical thing. It's not an electronic thing. The other reason to work on film is that it brings people together in a very different way to working on video, and it also makes you work in a very disciplined and thoughtful way. So you have to have really considered things carefully, and you have to make decisions straight away, and you have to really watch the action. I looked through the camera a bit, but not very much. Whereas when you work on a video camera, you tend to look through it all the time. You can also wind it back and look at it again. But you somehow have to trust. You trust your DP, you trust your operator, you trust your focus puller, you trust people, and it's a very different process. It's really frightening, but it's really thrilling too, somehow. I mean, because we haven't been able to see any rushes, we will not see them till next week. So we've shot 5 days and we don't even know what it looks like. That's really an exciting way to work. because you have to imagine things. We worked with these 8x4 mirrors. We worked with 6 of them, and 3 of them were two-way mirrors.
So yes, can I have your position? Problem obviously was that the camera was tracking around this room. Therefore, the chances of getting reflections or things you didn't want to see were increased. We could see quite easily the reflections of the camera and people behind the mirror. So we had to cover the camera and cameraman and focus with everybody behind the camera with black.
One of the things that I wanted to do in the film was circling around things or past things, and always in the same direction, because for Plato the sphere was the perfect thing. The idea is that we see the images and we go past them, and then when we come back around it's almost like a sort of we circumnavigate these ideas and these images.
The solution was to make the ceiling of this hexagonal room the light source. In practical terms, it simplified things for me, because by sealing the ceiling with just a piece of diffusion and light through the diffusion, it blocks anything that you could see through.
It was quite challenging to work with those 6 mirrors in the space and to try to make the space seem bigger than what it was, to create a very sort of contained world that was without flaws. So we had, lots of problems with trying to work out what to do with joints, and things like that, wanting to have something quite smooth. And so that meant we had to do all kinds of things with the set, like be able to take bits out of it so that when we tracked past it, the frame wasn't visible, which then made the set much more fragile and difficult to work with, and it was quite hard and quite challenging and quite expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Good off.
320. Oh, I suppose that's 15 seconds.
I thought, yeah.
Sort of short.
Okay, standing by.
We have played obviously twins before, but this one is essentially playing the same character. He's basically his, not alter ego, but he's like the core, like the voice within, if you will.
The idea of the twins just sort of came about from this idea of one talking to oneself, and there is a soul or an essence inside of one that maybe you can recognise sometimes. And I called it Stanleyness because I just thought that could be a nice way to name that thing. But the twins is a kind of adaptation of that, because it's a sort of filmic response to it. Because if one uses one person and just shoots it as if it's 2, it's kind of got a different meaning.
Stanley's a lot more almost naive. He doesn't quite see everything for how it is, and he's very interested in the insight of what Stanley 2 offers him.
I feel a bit sorry for him because he's the copy. He's the one of many, but he doesn't realise that. The film takes Stanley into that world of forms, but it's looking back at the world of appearances from the world of forms. If Stanley could make things come to life in his own mind, then perhaps his imagination were of essences as opposed to copies, because it was coming from inside of himself, from the mind's eye. So his vision of a horse would be something that was coming from that place.
Very good to see how professionals work. What does the director of photography does? What does a grip does, for example, which I was not sure. Or how hard it is for the actors to work on a film like this, or on any film, to learn the lines and to remember the spots and where they look and stuff. And from that, how hard it is for the director to complete the whole film in their head. The other new thing for me which I've learned was the continuity, how very important that is. I remember Jaime was constantly taking photographs and checking the time and writing it down, each take how long it is, and also the camera assistant Ian, how precise he was working and writing down each second.
So 8 1/3 sets.
Yeah, and those stands that we were using for the frame.
It was very big pleasure for me to work with them because, yeah, you see how people work and you put it in your mind for the future, for the next projects that you will do.
Basically, I think after this experience we became much more organized. We decided we can't go on doing what we did, and we needed a tight schedule.
I've learned to make everything precise but still friendly, because it's not the way to do professional work that you are angry and yelling at people and very, like a dictator, but to make a friendly approach and a kind of small family.
The experience was priceless, to be honest. This is the proper production, which you won't get in any uni. You won't get it by anyhow, because of many stuff: finance, budget, crew, and attitude. And here was, that thing that we need.
Really opened the doors and the windows for me to look on a different way of productions, especially here in school. That now I have a broader understanding of filmmaking, and yeah, it helped me a lot.